Did you pray today? Did you pray today? I'ma have to dig you down on some gangster shit.
Mac movie reviews, it's time to dive. Flicks and takes that'll keep you alive. Hit play now, it's your perfect fix. Movies and Mac, it just clicks.
28 years later, it's the most anticipated sequel to 2007's 28 Weeks Later and also 2002's 28 Days Later. Forget the fact that we skipped 28 months and just went straight to years, but that's neither here nor there. We are here at 28 years later, and the question is, does the film deliver on being a satisfying sequel to the first two films? The answer? Yes, but I'm gonna add something to this yes as well. 28 Years Later is the most batshit insane film I've seen in 2025, and I loved it. The energy in this film captures the original insanity and anxiety-driven thrills of the first two films. Starting with the story, it's one of the more interesting parts of the film. It does a good job of capturing the viewer's attention for its hour and 55-minute runtime. It also does a good job of telling a story where, if you haven't seen the first two films, it lays the groundwork on telling its standalone story while leaving room for people to go back and watch the first two films and get all caught up. The cast in 28 Years Later pulled in solid performances as well. Aaron Taylor Johnson and Jodie Comer did good jobs, but the standouts would have to be Alfie Williams and Ray Fiennes. Those two stuck out with their roles and were the standouts for me. I think Alfie Williams, it was his film, and kind of taking a story of a boy who is isolated in this UK that's been ravaged by the rage virus, and having him grow up and become a man to learn really like where his place in the world is and if he can really survive. And Ray Fiennes' character, I think it's a interesting take on sort of a madman, mad doctor man in the apocalypse, which we've probably seen any other type of movie like Apocalypse, we've seen that type of story, but with the way that the film is set up, these two will most likely return for the next two films, or at least the next film, Bone Temple, which comes out next year. So this is really setting the groundwork of what we know for their characters in 28 Years Later and how they're going to stand out in the second film, especially with Alfie Williams. Like, when you get to the ending, you can definitely tell where it's going to go and what his story is going to be for the next film, and this is definitely going to be his trilogy and his story to tell. But the cast in general just did a great job with their roles. And lastly, the cinematography in the film is great. I'm so glad that they got Anthony Mantle, who did the first two films, back for this one. They were able to kind of get that signature style and that serious, like, camera frantic work that the other two films are known for. At times it feels a little out of place with some of the shots and the quality. I know that they filmed a majority of this film on an iPhone, which is impressive, but some of the shots in film, you can tell it was shot in that phone style, which I get is supposed to capture that original feeling of the first two films, mostly the first film, because there's like no HD 4K copies of the 28 Days Later at all, but it does a good job of kind of modernizing that style. Well, it still feels a little grainy because, like, oh, we're not supposed to be watching this, is like classified footage, but it could have used like a bit more touch up. But like I said, it's keeping in touch with the original low grain chaotic cinematography of the series. If there are any negatives I would say about 28 Years Later, I think I'd probably have to say the pacing. At times the film feels so uneven, and I'm looking exactly at that second act. There's times where the film will slow down in order to showcase its narrative, which is still engaging to the viewer, but since we're getting everything set up for this new trilogy of films that we're getting, it's still a constant of like, okay, we gotta slow it down, then we can do mass action, 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 slow down for a little bit, action, 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 slow down a bit. And that's really like mostly the second act, kind of end of the second act going into the third act, because once the third act comes around, it will just bull rush to the ending. That's why I feel like that the pacing is a little bit uneven. And I think when it comes to just breaking it down, first act, really well done, really well paced. Second act has a little bit of hiccups at the end, still keeps you engaged, but it definitely is a slowdown. And when the third act hits, that's when it just kind of takes off with its pacing. And it's just, it can be jarring at times, and I'd probably say the pacing is probably 28 Years Later's biggest weakness in terms of the film overall. Overall, 28 Years Later is a good reintroduction into the series after 18 years of development hell. While at times it feels like the beginning of the larger trilogy, kind of makes it feel a little bit incomplete at times, it does well to be a tense, infected apocalypse film and joins the ranks of the first two films. I will be curious to see if this momentum will continue and what the Bone Temple in the third film will bring for this new line of 28 years or later weeks, 28 later franchise is going to be. I don't even know how we count. Is it 28 days? Like, whatever. I'm going to give 28 Years Later a final grade of an A-. So let me know in the comments below, did you like 28 Years Later? And what's your favorite film of the series so far? Until next time, I've been Mac from Mac Movie Reviews, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace! Hey, if you like this video, make sure you check out one of my other reviews on my channel, and stay tuned for the next one.